is a story we're all excited about, especially you, Sam. I'm sure it's the 10th anniversary of the International Day for Women and Girls in Science. The United Nations created this day to close the gender gap in science, hoping to get more women and girls interested in science and STEAM. Joining us to talk more about that is Wayne State University professor Dr. Tamara Hendrickson. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Good
Please call me
morning.
Tamara.
Tamara, perfect. Well, we are so glad to have you. Of course, we've heard this many times before, but not everyone is completely familiar with STEAM. Many people have heard STEM. I think STEAM sometimes still confuses people.
Yes. So STEAM includes the arts. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math, and then STEAM adds the A for the arts.
And can you talk a little bit about why it is so important for people to get interested in science in the first place, and especially young women?
Oh, I mean, I think the first thing is because it's really cool. That would be the obvious answer as someone who's devoted my life to science. I think anytime that we limit any group of people from pursuing science, we're missing out on tapping into the resources of humans, right? That, we don't know who the next person is going to be that's going to discover a way to limit climate change or a new cure for Alzheimer's disease. And so the more people, the more human talent that we can tap into, the better chance we're going to have these great discoveries. And there are still countries that limit women from any education. And there are just still intrinsic factors in society that make it harder for women to thrive and succeed and pursue careers in STEM.
So well said, Tamara. Thank you for that. And I like how you started out saying that science is just cool. Honestly, it reminds me of how Sam talks about it as well. And there must be something to that, that the people who have studied science and really know the ins and outs of it love it so much and find it so fascinating and cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like your imagination is endless, right? Because there aren't all the answers. And that's kind of the fun part about it. You're always kind of trying to predict the future, at least in my type of science, right? Because I'm doing the weather.
I mean, meteorology, right? That's a lot that is absolutely predicting the future. In a way that my science is not.
Yeah, and not always the easiest thing to do, but how can we encourage girls and boys to stay involved in science? I mean, I feel like at some point in the education system, it falls off. It becomes, oh, that's not the cool thing to do, or whatever it is,
or
it's
too
too hard.
challenging.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to, I want to say it was in the 90s, and sorry to Mattel to bring this up, but when they made a Barbie that said math is very hard. It's a great example about how there are things in society that we don't even think about that just convey this message. In the case of Barbie, it's really conveying the message to girls that math isn't something we should do. But really, across the board, the image of a scientist as the geek with the pocket protector who's not very good at social skills, it hurts everybody pursuing careers in science. So what I would say to parents, if they have a child that is showing acumen and interest, I mean, clubs, the scouting, whether it's Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts, science museums often have activities where you can get your children engaged in programs that will keep their curiosity going. And they'll make friends in these programs that are similar to them in their interests and curiosity. And so that kind of thing. There are also great programs out there to work with public schools to make sure that the science education that's going on, particularly in K through 6, is curiosity engaging and a hypothesis driven, so that you're introducing young children to the ideas of this. Because the fact is, we're all born curious, right? Every person listening to this was curious about a bug as a kid, or why the clouds and why the sky was blue, why clouds look different on different days, why it snows. And so how do we tap into that curiosity and keep it going to where they stay in science for as long as they want to? And I think a lot of that is extracurricular programming.
Absolutely.
Right now.
And you bring up such a great point about just the connotation of science and studying science and being involved in it that a lot of times, as you said, Sam, it might seem uncool or it's too challenging and it's too difficult. A lot of times those are already attached to science without people really getting to experience it and knowing what it's about. So I think it's about changing the narrative, right? With women like
Right.
you explaining just how fun it is and how fascinating it is and the different ways that you can get involved with it that we might not think about regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. And representation, of course, really matters. I mean, I came from a class of broadcast or meteorologists in general, graduating one of the only women in that class, in the program,
Oh, wow.
mainly men in there,
Yeah.
right? So it still is an active problem. I'm not that far removed from
Right,
college at
right.
this time. And
Yep.
that's in the United States. Some countries aren't even allowing girls to get an education. What impact does that have on the world?
I mean, I think, I think there's two impacts, really. I mean, there's probably infinite numbers of impacts, but I think there's two big ones. One is that we're missing out on talent. You never know what that little girl over there might discover if she's encouraged to pursue what she wants to pursue. And I think the second is that everybody needs role models. And so the more that we put women in science, the more role models we have for young girls who think they might want to do science. And then they can see themselves successful in a career in their future.
Absolutely. Help people understand what are some of those careers that young people can pursue and be a part of STEAM or STEM, and they may not even realize it.
Oh, I mean, there are so many. So there's obviously, I'm a professor, so there's obviously going into academia, teaching K through 12. We need people that are scientists teaching K through 12. Especially I would say at the high school level where things start to get more specialized. But those are kind of the obvious ones, okay, right? Then there's also pharmaceutical sciences, biotechnology, where a lot of the great discoveries for biomedical sciences are made and then translated into therapies for humans or for animals. In fact, I'm an animal lover, so veterinary science as well, medicine. And then there's all kinds of, I'm a biochemist, so I tend to lean towards here's the biochemistry kinds of jobs. But as scientists, engineers, civil engineers, designing our cities, designing our bridges, making sure they're safe for people to drive on. Physicists, astrophysicists, studying, understanding planets. My niece is interested in pursuing a career in astronomy and looking at Earth-like planets in beyond our solar system. You can go into management consulting, things like that aren't even science, that aren't obviously science, because with science, you get a very analytical education. So you really learn to problem solve. So there are a lot of careers out there that they will hire scientists, trained students straight out of undergraduate because of their problem solving skills that they've developed in their courses. So, I would say actually a science major in college doesn't limit you from much in terms of careers that you could pursue.
Yeah, some great ideas, ones I certainly hadn't thought of before when it comes to careers in the science path.
Absolutely. And I think, I want to know too if you can expand on this. One thing that I found really critical and still very much in need was for people who can communicate science, who can understand it, and who can also tell the story of it. Because a lot of times you get very introverted people in these science programs and they're encouraged to go in them because they're so brilliant and their brain thinks one way, and that's incredible. We need them. We need more of them. But we also need people who can, express the importance of climate change, express
In a way we can understand it.
in a way we can understand it. Can you speak any
Yeah.
more to that, and maybe how girls can have a stronger role in that part of science as well?
Okay, so first I want to say there are extroverts in science. I'm not one of them.
I am.
Yeah, I'm reasonably introverted, live alone with my cats. But there are extroverts in science, but I think you've hit on a great point that one of the things, the farther you go in science, I think the less of these sort of, I don't know if you want to call them soft skills, but these other skills are incorporated. incorporated into education. Now, our graduate students have to give presentations. Certainly, we work on them when they're interviewing for jobs to make sure they're prepared, that kind of thing. But I think there are a lot of careers out there where merging communication skills, presentation skills with a scientific background, just as you mentioned, are critical. And I think for women and girls, that may feel like an easier path. And I don't know if that's a fair thing to say, but I think, women and girls, the same thing that is sort of pushing us away from science also encourages us to be people-friendly, caregivers. But as somebody with science skills and a science interest, you really can merge those. Meteorology, I think, is a great example, where you're merging a science education and a public presentation style as an important skill for society to understand. In this example, weather, right? And I think one of the things that we've seen in the past few years, there's been a distrust of science emerging. And the better that we as scientists get at communicating why our research is important and why our research is trustworthy, the better it is for everybody. So I don't think that's particularly a girl-specific thing. I think it's something anybody considering a career in science thinking through, should I be taking oral communication skills courses, is only going to serve you well.
Really great point there. I'm curious to hear you speak on this, Tamara, after Sam mentioned her time in college. Not that long ago, still it being such a male-dominated field. You are also a professor, so you're getting this firsthand look as well. What are you seeing in terms of the demographics? Are you seeing more young women interested in this field?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, very much so. So I'm in chemistry, and I should have looked up the statistics before this, but I don't think in our department of our graduate students, there is not much, if any, gender gap.
Wow.
Oh, that's
And this
amazing.
is compared. So when I started grad school, my class, we were a third of us were women, and that class was abnormally heavy in the number of women in the class. The normal was much more, 15%.
Can you remember about when you started to see the change of seeing more young ladies and more young women in these classes?
Oh, every year. I would say it was so in the 90s. So I went to graduate school in the early 90s. I'm that old. And at that point, so biochemistry has always been more women friendly. It's perceived, again, as a softer science so that women can go in it and do well in it, perception. And I would say that perception has faded now too. But so outside of biochemistry, when I started graduate school, there were women professors, but there weren't very many. And now, our department is about a third women faculty. We're on the high end for national statistics, but it really, there's a critical tipping point, I think, where you hit a percentage of women faculty where all of a sudden it's just not an issue anymore. Right. It's just there's women faculty. It's very tough if you're the only woman. And my first job, I was the only woman faculty member for 4 years. And then everybody is looking at you like, how's this going to go? But once you hit this critical mass, nobody talks about it anymore because it's just over.
And it becomes the
I think
norm.
it's very legitimate. It's very normal.
Yeah, which is incredible. I mean, you truly are making a difference. I had one female professor, Dr. Darius Kluver. It was so nice to have her to go to refer to. When you had some of these conversations or some of the guys in the class say things to you and you get frustrated and you want to be seen the same as just as intelligent and, bringing just as many ideas to the table as they are, and having a female professor to confide in is incredibly important. And days like this, International Day of Women and Girls in STEM.
Yeah.
Tamara, we can't thank you enough for your great insight on this. I really enjoyed chatting with you this morning.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, have a wonderful day and celebrate. You deserve to.
Oh, thank you.
Take
All
care,
right,
Tamara.
take care. Thank you very much.
Bye.